Hello there, good afternoon, and welcome once again to The Pulse. We are coming to you live from our studios here in Accra. We are on your digital terrestrial TV because we are free to air. You can catch us on DSTV channel 421 and GoTV channel 144. This is Joy News, independent, fearless, and credible journalism. Coming up this afternoon on The Pulse, there are clear signs that Ghana could be returning to the dark days of power outages. That's the warning from the Ghana Institute for Public Policy Options, which says the Energy Ministry's recent excuses for intermittent power cuts are untenable.
Those in power now are actually looking at things and planning for the new demand. Right. Because clearly, if you don't plan for the new demand, yes, you find yourself in a situation where doomsday will return.
Utility consumers are kicking against the proposed upward adjustment in electricity and water tariffs, as they say they are already stretched financially and cannot accommodate any further hikes.
I don't know where we are going forward or we are coming back. We are government workers. Even when since to get pension beneficiary.
Well, stay with us. We have a full breakdown of what the utility companies are demanding, plus an expert opinion here for you on The Pulse. And in our Drive Safe campaign as well, we engage the National Road Safety Authority as there are growing concerns drivers are beginning to take cocaine to stay awake. That and more coming up here on The Pulse. I am blessed to The Pulse, as always, is brought to you by Global Communities Dignilu, affordable, safe sanitation. We are streaming live this afternoon on YouTube as well, and also on all of our social media handles. Feel free to be a part of it. It's at JoyNews on TV. Tweet at us with the hashtag The Pulse. My personal handle is at Blessed Sogah. Thanks for choosing us. Stay for details. Well, so this afternoon, there are clear signs that Ghana is returning once more to the dark days of power crisis, as you may call it, doomsday. That's the warning from the Ghana Institute for Public Policy Options, which says the Energy Ministry's recent excuses for intermittent power cuts in terms of electricity supply are untenable. Ghana Grid Company, in an official release to the press recently, says a major system disturbance caused what was the major blackout we witnessed over the weekend in some parts, especially of the Greater Accra, Western, Central, Middle, and Northern parts of the country. So here's the explanation from Gridco for you in terms of what accounted for that power outage. It reads that at 7:52 on Saturday, May 7, 2022, the power system experienced a system disturbance due to faulted equipment on the Takrady Extension Winneba line. Now, consequently, all generating plants, which is Abuazi, Tema, we have the Kpon Tema plant as well, and also Kpon, were forced to shut down. This caused forced outages within the coastal corridor of the national grid, which led to power supply interruptions in some parts of the Greater Western, Central, Middle, and Northern parts of the country. Now, the statement further explains that, however, the Akosombo and Tema plants actually continue to be in service, supplying power, restoring, and then we know that restoration began immediately, and supply was restored to all bulk supply points by 11:29 of that same day. Now, Gridco is assuring its valued stakeholders that it will continue to work towards the provision of reliable power system for Ghana's socio-economic development. And they further went on to apologize for the major outages that were witnessed over the weekend. That was the explanation that we got from Gridco. In fact, government had earlier on indicated clearly what was accounting for some other experiences that we're having across the country. But there's a concern coming through that may not entirely be the case. The fact that we may be returning closer and closer to doomsday. Well, I caught up with the chief policy analyst for the Ghana Institute for Public Policy Options, Dr. Charles Rekubrobe, who says that there are clear signs that the country is inching closer to a power crisis. Now, he commented on the recent proposal by the Electricity Company of Ghana, also asking the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission to do an upward adjustment of tariffs. Listen. We know that the utility organizations or state-owned enterprises, including ECG, they are making a demand for an upward adjustment of tariffs. For instance, ECG is asking for over 100% in terms of upward adjustment from the PURC.
I thought they were asking for
148.
Yeah.
What's your take on the recent demands that we're getting from these state-owned agencies?
As I know it, there is a major review of tariffs every 3 years. So I believe the last one was done in 1992, then in 2019. So we are in 2022, so the review time is due. I cannot comment on whether the specific demand of 148 is adequate or truly reflects. But what ECG demands reflects, because they are the people to whom we pay our tariffs, it must also reflect the cost of production that VRA, BUI, and IPPs have to do. Then gridco's transmission costs, because if they don't carry the electricity, nothing happens. Then ECG's net cost for bringing a thing to our home. So the law is that the total cost for producing electricity and for sending it to our home must be covered by the tariff, as must the cost of making sure they have enough money to replace their assets. So that there is a need for a tariff review, I have no doubt. What we need to question is that just as you and I, every other week we have to look at a review of petrol prices, the automatic adjustment formula also exists for electricity. But for some reason, under this regime, we have not applied the automatic formula. It was supposed to apply every quarter, every 3 months. So instead of having a principle of little drops of water, we now have a mighty ocean all in one. So that, I believe, accounts for the very substantial increase that they have asked for. Of course, the increase must also make sure that they operate efficiently, so they don't make losses that we have to pay for, and all of that. So it is necessary to adjust, and it is necessary to review. How much, I cannot say at this moment.
But you are the expert and you understand how the PRC arrives at the final pricing. What do you see happening at the end of the day? Because Ghanaians are very much concerned, waiting to see if they would have to take on the 148% increment altogether.
I don't think in the end the 148 will happen. But I think it works on the I get the philosophy of ask big and settle for what might be deemed to be appropriate. That's the work of PURC. That you ask for the moon and they decide that a small star is good for you. So the PURC in the end will look at all the details of the request added. And then, see, when you look at the whole thing, you think that oil prices have gone up substantially. That's why petrol prices have gone up. So naturally, you also expect that gas, which is now the major fuel for power generation in Ghana, would also have gone up, except that in some places like Sogah, we still use oil. And so when you look at that fact and look at the fact that our exchange rate has deteriorated quite a lot, and you look at some of the major inputs that are also imported, you would expect that adjustments for these will bring up the rise. So there is absolutely no doubt that Ghanaians must pay more. The question then becomes, how much should they pay? And the question then becomes, is it reasonable? In my working time, I also used to say that if you think electricity is expensive, try buy a candle. if you buy a candle and put it in your room to light your room up, apart from the huge expense, it's actually on a unit cost basis, it's about 4 or 5 times the unit of electricity that you pay for.
Right.
So there's no doubt that of all the options that are available, electricity is the cheapest in terms of, and also the safest in terms of providing lighting for us. Yeah. Nobody likes to pay more, but if you want to sleep in darkness, don't pay. If you want to sleep in light and chill your beer and watch your Netflix, etc., etc., be prepared to pay. But there's also the other added factor that there's a substantial waste in electricity, and Ghanaians need to be aware that energy efficiency and conservation can actually reduce your electricity bill by up to 50 or even 60%. So little things like turning off lights when you don't need it, turning off your standby power because you are too lazy to get up and go and switch it off at the appliance, boiling a bucket of water when you only need a cup of tea. Those are little things which we can all do to reduce the amount of power that you need.
Yeah, Doc, and since you're talking about that point, some also say that ECG should also be responsible in that regard in terms of checking power losses. They talk about power losses accounting for some 28% in their report as well.
Yeah, PURC takes account of that because they indicate the allowable power losses which are due to technical. Simply selling power to your home, there's some losses on the line. But the losses that come from theft and the inefficient are not allowed. They should not be allowed. And therefore, in fact, when I was actively involved, one of the first things that you look at when utilities ask for tariff is to look at the level of losses and to see which of those losses are allowable losses and which are things they can do something about. I think people are more worried about the reliability and the quality of the power that they get than the price. In Ghana, they have what they call, what do you call it, the low voltage.
Yes.
You know, which is a major problem. It destroys appliance, power fluctuations, destroys appliance, and so you need high reliability and high quality, and that is very, very important to ensure that when the consumer pays for the power, they get what they have paid for.
And since we're talking about reliability of power, we know that we're peaking somewhere around over 3,000 megawatts, but the ECG is also projecting that may grow with time to some 5,000 megawatts by 2026. That's their projection. Given that situation, do we need to expand our production capacity, or what do we need to put into account to ensure that we have reliable power?
We always have to expand, because if we didn't expand, and we still, for example, I remember 30 years ago, I wrote an editorial opinion, which I titled Akosobunkanea Asa. You know, if we hadn't started using thermal power from 20 to 25, 30 years ago, half of the country will be in darkness. You don't forget, you wouldn't remember, but in 1989, we set out a very ambitious program to electrify the whole country. Only about 15% of the country had access. And we set out a program of 30 years to make sure that everywhere in Ghana had electricity within 30 years. So there's been an expansion of need, there's been an expansion of demand as the world goes more and more electrical and electronic. We are very ambitious in our industrialization agenda, where we are saying that, for example, we want to go from raw bauxite to alumina to finished product. We want to do similarly with iron works and all of that. These are some of the most power-intensive industries that should come. So there's no doubt. You know, I mean, at the beginning of this administration, there was a lot of talk about excess capacity.
Precisely.
But that excess capacity is not there at all, long gone.
No, we don't have it?
You know, you have to have, no, you have to talk about reliable capacity.
Right.
You know, you cannot, the capacity they talk.
Well, apologies there for that break in the interview with Dr. Reku Brobe. We'll bring that to you later on, but there's a need for us to expand the conversation. I guess the point is made. The caution out there that we may be getting back to the dark days of doom. So joining me now via Zoom is Deputy Energy Minister Andrew Ejapa-Mensah, who's helping us to break down the issues and also get government's perspective on this. Thank you, sir, for your time. So you've heard not entirely the conversation, but I guess you get the great drift of Dr. Reku Brobe when he says that the signs are clear. We are getting closer and closer to once more an energy crisis. What's your take on that point that he's made?
Well, let me say good afternoon to your viewers. I wonder the basis of my very senior Dr. Charles Reku Brobe's assertion. Because obviously, if you listen to the press briefing that my minister, Honorable Dr. Matthew Poku-Prepe, gave last month, where he indicated that as of 2021, we had an installed generation capacity of 5,367 megawatts, and that the peak demand for that period is 3,246. One wonders how anybody can then suggest that the signs are clear that we are heading for doom. So, of course, on that day, he indicated that the peak that had been recorded for this year was 3,469. And on that day, the available capacity was 3,861, which people have then suggested that if you do a simple subtraction of the 3,469 from the 3,861, you are left with some 400 megawatts that was available on the day. That then suggests that at any point where any of the plants go off, we were likely to have doom so. Clearly, that is a misunderstanding of how the electricity generation space operates. Indeed, on every material bill, nominations are made and specific plants are asked to come on. Okay, and obviously, based on that, GRICO then dispatches the least cost. Okay, what we call the merit order dispatch. Indeed, I can confirm to you that Mary, for example, for over a year, even though it's in good shape, because of the excess capacity that we've always been mentioning, it's never been turned on one day. But that 250 megawatts is available. What the ministry has then decided to do is to move that plant to Amomaso in the Ashanti region, just so that they can help with grid stability. And so if you have sight of all the issues that are within the space and you conclude that we are looking at imminent doom, so that conclusion really is not borne out by the fact. Yes, I agree that if you look at the growth projection in the demand forecast, we will get to a point where our installed capacity would all be demanded.
In fact, I was just about pointing that out because the Electricity Company of Ghana, for instance, talks about that in their proposal to PURC. They give clear indications that we may be exhausting that. So, yes, indeed, it appears that
that's pretty obvious. And so question is, are there plans in place to incrementally add on to our capacity, which we estimate, okay, that by 2026, 27, okay, if we do not add any capacity, then obviously we'll be in doom zone. And so if that is the suggestion, that if you look at the demand, it may be time for us to begin the conversation, so that because the plans take 2-3 years to actually get completed, begin the conversation so that by the time that the installed capacity that we have today is actually exhausted, we'll be in a position to then depend on new ones that are coming. Then I will say yes. But if the suggestion is that, and I heard him say based on recent happenings, okay, and the attribution is that because we had some outages, especially over the weekend, which Gridco has explained. And clearly, if you have some fall in pressure of the gas delivery system infrastructure, that then impacts the output end, you would have some equipments going off, which would trigger the kind of issues that we experienced over the weekend. But like Gridco explained, when the gas came back up, they restored power incrementally until it got ramped up.
So basically what you're telling us is that Dumsor, we're nowhere closer to Dumsor.
But of course, the Minister of Energy assured Ghanaians only last month that we are nowhere near Dumsor, and that anybody who is thinking that because of the Dumsor program that we are running, okay, improvement in our transmission infrastructure, distribution infrastructure, that increasingly we are looking for funds to fix some of them. If those lead to outages and you conclude that that is Dumsor, then obviously that amounts to wishful thinking, because
in fact,
is sufficient enough capacity in place,
right?
And government is also beginning the conversation that then ensures that the period 2012-2016 incidents that we had does not recur again in our country.
Yeah, I mean, for the sake of time, I would have played back to you the concern about Dr. Rukubrobe on that. He talks about the fact that these kinds of excuses, as he's calling them, that we're seeing from your ministry is untenable.
But of course, I mean, what will be the basis for his assertion?
Well,
that these are excuses?
His assertion may not be strange, but just hold on for me. Let me build on the point.
Yeah, sure.
Right. His assertion may not be strange, particularly when we know, and there are more revelations coming through from the ECG in terms of the proposal they're tabling before PURC. They are making even some very damning remarks on the Energy Ministry and by extension government. We'll just show you excerpts of that. We'll just show you excerpts of that. Let's bring that on the screens now, talking about what it is that ECG has been talking about in terms of indebtedness by government. They talk about, and you have that on your screens right now, the indebtedness to ECG, and there you have it. They're talking about the fact that it is undeniable that government recently made some payments to defray the cost which both ministries, departments, and agencies owe government, the issue about street lights and all of that. But however, and that's the point I want you to respond to, the full amount granted as COVID-19 relief by government is yet to be settled. And we know that, for instance, in 2019, you paid just 4 million Ghana cedis out of, look at the total amount, 1.8 million, some 1.8 billion, which you owe the, of course, ECG. And then they go to talk about how much you owe the IPPs as well. If you look at the fraction of how much you're paying, clearly, we could say that government is not doing well in terms of offsetting the debt to ECG. That could also cripple our power sector. You agree?
You see, you need to read the entirety of the statement that ECG is putting out there in its proper context.
But okay. You haven't paid. You haven't paid the amount.
Well, the Ministry of Finance, I'm sure, can speak to it. Okay, because I'm not aware that COVID relief that government granted to ECG have not been paid.
No,
I haven't seen.
I mean that will be strange, because obviously that policy was coordinated by your ministry. This is the Electricity of Ghana writing to PRC on the basis for which they are asking for an upward adjustment.
But if there is an indebtedness, okay, and you know your debtor,
Yeah.
How does that become basis for increases in tariffs?
But
that's why I said you need to read the entirety of the document in context.
Right.
Okay, yes, there is a running account that government of Ghana and ECG operate. Sometimes ECG's own shortfalls, okay, in their inability to generate requisite enough revenue to pay the IPPs is supplemented by government. Okay, and so let's distinguish whatever obligations that they are with ECG and the fact that there is sufficient enough generation.
Because but ECG, I guess it's not about. I guess the capacity may not necessarily be in question now. It's about return on investment and then paying for the power that
electricity.
But the point
I'm saying to you that the what your producer said to me was that Dr. Rekugobe has made some assertion to the effect that there was imminent doomsday. And I'm saying to you that if you look at the data, that assertion is not supported by the facts. And I've said to you that notwithstanding, government in its wisdom and having regard to the Energy Commission's own demand forecast is having conversations with independent power producers to ensure that incremental capacity is added so that by the time we get to the point where the presently installed capacity is consumed, we have sufficient enough generation to meet the demands of our consumers. You are mixing that up with ECG electricity distributor. These obligations that he's claiming government owes them. And I'm saying that distinguish the two.
No, but it's a supply chain, you agree.
Does not in any way impact the generation capacity of this country. But that's not the point that I'm making.
It's a supply chain. Doomsday may not necessarily return because of the generational capacity. It may also be due to some other challenges which also border on indebtedness. You agree?
Such as.
Precisely, and that's why I'm saying it's a supply chain. If one side of
it's not a question of supply chain. Yes, ECG as the distributor, they are the ones that generate the revenue at the consumer and then user point, for which everybody else within the value chain is paid. But I'm saying that in itself is distinguishable from actual generation being available. If you're saying that, yes, there is sufficient enough generation, but because you owe ECG, they are unable to pay the generators to generate the power for them to distribute. That's a conversation that we can have. But the point still remains that does not impact generation per se.
Right. So at what point do you personally feel that doomsday could come back?
Well, I do not foresee that we're going to have doomsday anytime soon. I do not foresee that the conversations that are actually ongoing today would lead to doomsday anytime within the foreseeable future. Like I indicated, PURC, the Energy Commission, has demand forecast that because it's the energy sector regulator, okay, then projects additional generation capacity that government from time to time ought to add to the generation mix. We are following that strictly and would ensure as a ministry that there are no gaps that would then lead to generational deficiency that then would result in lack of electricity for our consumers. That I can assure you is exactly what it is that we are doing.
Andrew, don't you feel that you're focusing too much on generational capacity? You're looking at one side of the coin and not necessarily the concern about energy or power supply. That's also a critical aspect that will keep the lights on, you agree? Because if ECG is not distributing the energy that is being generated, clearly there'll be a big challenge.
I agree with you that there has to be a focus on the distribution bit as well, okay? And I'm not saying that that's not important. But you recall that consistently we've said that Ghana's problem is not generation. People have disputed it. And the suggestion that Dr. Rekugobe is putting out there is that our problem necessarily is generation. So the question that you ask in itself addresses the point that we have made consistently, that it is not a question about generation, but sustainability. And so if ECG is unable to generate the requisite revenue on the ground to pay the grid company which transmits the power to them, to pay the power generators that then generates the power and transmits, then you have a situation where you have generation, but you will not have supply. But I'm saying that in itself is what we are working to avert. And so all the issues that we've had over the weekend clearly cannot be attributable to ECG's inability to provide power, okay, because there's lack of generation. The reason that others are tagging as excuses are actually technical problems that indeed arose over the weekend. I was in my constituency when the lights went off. So I went onto our platform and saw the report that had put out there with respect to the offshore receiving facility at Sanzuli, okay, which then brings gas from the ENI field. That had a low pressure problem, and so they couldn't have the generation, the requisite gas to power the pump, okay? So that had to be resolved, and the pressure increased for the generators to generate, and some of the plants were shifted onto light crude and all that. So I'm saying that if we're having a conversation that distinguishes clearly what the generational situation is, let us do so. And if anybody thinks that because of ECG's inability, and of course, you and I know that there are technical and commercial losses in the region of about 30% of the revenue that is seeking to, is supposed to collect. And so what measures are being put in place to ensure that ECG generates the sufficient enough revenue to pay its bills? It's exactly what the Energy Sector Recovery Program has sought to do, that increasingly we are resolving the issues and the challenges in that space.
And today, we're being told by the ECG that PURC would have to look into their concerns and do an upward adjustment of tariff by some 148%. I mean, Ghanaians will be concerned about that as well.
It's surprising to me that we are harping on ECG's wish list, as if to say consistently over the years, they do not ask for percentage increases in that region or even more. But the question then is, after the assessment and evaluation by PURC, are these requests approved? Look at the data. You would see that in from 2010 through to 2021, every year ECG goes with, every time that there's a major tariff review, which is every 3 years, they go with a plethora of demands, but the PURC hardly ever grants those requests. In fact, in 2019, there was actually a reduction, okay, of some 30% for non-residential consumers and 12% or so for residential consumers, okay? And so let the PURC evaluate the proposal that have been submitted to them, let them do the stakeholder engagements, and then come out with an approved tariff that then we can begin to have a conversation on whether indeed it is 148% increase that is being put out there. Yeah. As if to say that merely submitting proposals amount to an approval. It's not.
Well, that's not our basis, but you also don't work for PURC.
But that's been the narrative out there.
Well, yes, we know that.
This morning I've had cause to speak on several media houses, and I've said to the host that, look, yes, these are proposals that, and indeed, Joy FM admitted when I sent a message to one of your colleagues there that yes, they have added a caveat that, well, these are proposals from ECG.
Right, and it's a proposal
from the record, from the data, it is not their proposals that end up being what it is that the PURC necessarily approves.
Well, so it's a proposal. I get that fact. It's a proposal to PURC, I understand. But you are not in a position to determine for PURC what steps they may take on this. We don't know what the outcome it will be. But clearly we're saying that Ghanaians may pay some more for power in the coming days. That's clear. And that's what you're responsible for.
Not necessarily. Because you see,
beyond that, we're learning now that a significant part of the problem has got to do with government's indebtedness. And they're pointing that out to us. You can't contest that fact, can you?
I'm saying to you that every month as I sit in this energy ministry, I see ECG bills, shortfalls in generational payments that the Ministry of Finance is paying. Every month, I see fuel bills that are submitted through the Ministry of Energy to the Ministry of Finance to pay. So, like I said, and without being sounding repetitive, I've indicated that ECG and the government of Ghana have a running account that they operate, okay? And so you may have to do some reconciliation to see where exactly this so-called obligation that ECG claims covered funds that were relief that government gave in 2020 has not been paid. I'm not in a position to either confirm or deny that data, but I'm saying that if that were even to be the case, ECG's obligations are paid by the Ministry of Finance on a regular basis, and that cannot in itself be a basis for them asking for increases in tariffs.
But you know how much of a toll that would have on ECG, for instance, is if we have everyone using power for free. That was what happened.
But of course, debt is debt. Debt doesn't mean that somebody is using power for free.
In terms of the magnitude, it
if the person owes you except that the person hasn't paid, that is not free. Look, you see, if you listen to the press briefing once again that my minister granted last month, you'll see in there that for every 100 units of electricity that ECG sells, they are unable to account and or collect 30%. Okay? And so you ought to begin to introduce operational efficiency into the ECG space to make sure that all that money that goes out that they cannot either account for or collect is collected. And that's exactly what it is that we are working with them. And I'm sure that the PURC would give them the KPIs that then ensure that they're able to meet those targets. Okay. Again, question as to whether I lost my thought there. But the point that I'm making is that whatever it is that the issues with ECG are, those are separate and distinct from the generation capacity that the country has. And those themselves are separate and distinct and cannot be the basis for them asking for increases in tariffs. Indeed, what the Ministry of Energy is proposing, okay, and ECG themselves admit that because of the punitive nature, if you like, of the tariff structure that they operate, where high energy consumers are charged more, that in itself does not, if you like, encourage consumption. So that in the regime where we have excess capacity, where we are to ensure that all that capacity is consumed, because of the prohibitive nature of the tariffs, people do not, especially industry, resort to alternative sources of energy to power their plants. What we are proposing is for us to have a flat out tariff regime, okay, that then ultimately makes the energy cheaper and encourage people to consume. Obviously, if the energy is cheaper or it's affordable, then the incidents where people would want to undercut, do illegal connection and all sorts of things are likely to reduce. And when that happens, the tendency would be for us to see some operational improvement in ECG's collection rate. And that is exactly what we are advocating, I'm sure, that the PURC, based on all the analysis that I've seen, would look to what it is that the suggestions from us are and approve it so that we have a much more sane environment where ECG can operate and collect their revenues to meet its operational expenditures.
I'm glad that you're making that point because your ministry supervises ECG, for instance. There's a report on state-owned enterprises and how they are underperforming by Sogah. Sogah talks about the fact that ECG is among some of these organizations that's not doing well. So how come that you're piling on to the debt situation of that company, particularly when we know that you've gone in for a rapid credit facility from the World Bank to deal with the exigencies of COVID. You've not allocated the portion that you gave out for free electricity to ECG. That's not fair to the company, is it?
Well, I'm not in a position to confirm or deny that assertion because I know that there's the Ministry of Finance that was responsible for making those subsidy, or if you like, payments to ECG. And so we may have to confirm from the Ministry of Finance whether those figures that are put out there are actually what it is that they are.
But it's your word against that of the ECG. ECG is saying you've not paid us. I mean, at least if we pay our bills, I guess if we pay our bills, ECG definitely gives us a receipt. So if you've not paid them,
you should remember that I have a legal background, and so I choose my words quite carefully.
But you supervise this.
I'm not in a position to confirm or deny. That is not challenging anybody's figures. I say we may have to confirm from the Ministry of Finance whether the figures that have been put out there, because I'm not in a position to confirm at this material moment.
At the time you were formulating the policy, obviously you were in the know that government was going to give electricity for free. What were you earmarking in terms of funding for that project?
But of course, in the midst of the COVID, did you expect government to do anything else than to provide relief to the citizens of this country who, for most part, were not working, who, for most part, were under lockdown, or for some part of the year were under a lockdown, who, for most part, had lost their livelihoods arising out of the ravages of COVID? And so it was important for government to act, for government to provide relief, for government to support its citizens and protect their lives and livelihoods. And so if a decision was taken to provide free electricity for a period of time, free water, that people's lives depended on, do you really have a problem with that? Of course, if there are some outstanding obligations, like I said, the Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Energy, ECG, as I sit here, every month, bills that ECG owes IPPs are paid by the Ministry of Finance. The other day, you heard the Vice President indicate that 17 billion odd Ghana cedis had been made for and on behalf of ECG, arising out of excess capacity contracts that they had signed. And so how you want to relate that relief that government gave as basis for so-called non-performance of ECG is really baffling to me.
No, I'm not the one making the points. ECG is the one making that as a session. They are saying it's affecting power supply. I'm not the one making the point.
ECG said, I said, situate that comment in context. Was that the only issue that ECG identified for which they were requesting PURC to approve tariff increases for them?
But in
obviously
the end,
not.
In the end, it's about money. If ECG doesn't have
but
the money,
of course, that's not the only issue. So don't make it look as if it's the only issue. There were a plethora of issues that ECG identified, pursuant to which they are making a request. Of course, if you're going to an economic regulator to make a justification for increases in tariffs, obviously they would put out issues that they think may suit their narrative. But there are other technical issues that the PURC would evaluate before it comes up with any approval or otherwise that they would give for whatever tariff increases that they would grant.
But in the end, even if we look at the technical considerations, it will still come back to you at the Energy Ministry. For instance, you're talking about technical losses, losses in supply, which is being pegged somewhere around 30%. All of these issues are obviously of matters bordering on policy, how to deal with wastage in the system. Government agencies as well are using power which they are not paying for. These are all issues that still come back to you at the ministry.
Absolutely, and no doubt at all. You recall that it was government policy to, if you like, privatize some aspect of ECG's operations. Okay, and so the PDS transaction that then, because of some contractual breaches, if you like, led to government terminating that agreement. Okay, and so very recently, boundary metering program has been launched that then ensures that ECG is able to account for the power that comes into its operational jurisdictions. Okay, they've piloted the special business unit that then defines a particular scope that would lead to some efficiencies. And so we're looking to scale that up and introduce some private sector participation, okay, in their billing and collections and space.
All right, then.
Okay, but that's all work in progress that will require cabinet approvals before they are implemented.
And
okay,
so what would be
management system has been rolled out that then allows communication between their meters. There's the task force that was launched very recently that is going about helping with the debt recovery and all that. So a multiplicity of issues are being rolled out to, as it were, resolve the problems of ECG. But we are all clear in our minds that some private sector intervention, because we all saw the operational performance and the rate of collection when PDS was introduced into ECG's operations for the 8-month period. Okay, and what has happened post the termination of that agreement. But it's early days yet, and I believe that when the decisions are taken, the good people of this country would be apprised of what it is that government intends to do to ensure that ECG is put on some sound financial footing.
And part of that is that we're privatizing again?
I said that there was going to be some private sector participation,
right?
Some aspect of the operations of ECG. That's the ticket to you that will require approvals, and it's early days yet. I didn't get your name because you want to try to read something into
right.
what people say. But I mean, there's no opaqueness with whatever it is that we are doing here. All the conversations that we are having are pretty much open, transparent, and when the decisions are taken and firmed up, like I said, Ghanaian people will be apprised of where it is that government intends to go with ECG.
All right then, Andrew, my name is Blessed, but what's your message to Ghanaians out there? Yes, precisely.
Very well, good.
So your message to Ghanaians as we wrap up on this conversation?
Well, I think that Ghanaians should be assured, so as we knew it, it's a thing of the past. I can say categorically, without any fear of contradiction, that all the naysayers who are preaching imminent doom really is not borne out by the facts as I see them. Okay, and the documents are available.
All right.
Yes, there are few of the plans that are installed, like T3 that is not available, that government is working to put it back on. But if you look at the broad scope of the generation capacity that we have, there's sufficient enough power to feed the demand. But yes, going forward, there's a need to do an incremental addition that is consistent with the projections that the Energy Commission has made. So as far as I'm concerned, there's no doom that is imminent.
All right then. I'm grateful that you've been able to join us. That's the Deputy Energy Minister, Andrew Mensah. Well, some Ghanaians are kicking against the proposed upward adjustment in electricity and water tariffs. The Public Utilities Regulatory Commission is currently undertaking a major review of its tariffs for power and water companies, which would see the rate at which you pay for water and electricity go up significantly. We'll hear from them shortly, but first here's a breakdown of the demand by the Ghana Water Company Limited. They are indicating that they would want to provide, quote, a world-class utility service as a company, and because of that, they are urging the PURC to provide every necessary support. Part of the reasons that the Ghana Water Company Limited is also pointing to is the issue of inadequacy of tariff to carry out effective repair of assets and minor extensions. And they believe that the delay in the upward adjustment is affecting the ability of the water company to replace obsolete machines. There's also the issue about re-evaluation of assets. In 2018, for instance, the Ghana Water Company Limited revalued its assets, which went up from 2.2 billion to 17.2 billion as we speak. And that upward adjustment will definitely provide an opportunity to get a fair return on investment. Then the bigger point and the bigger picture about the depreciation of the cedi. Since last year, or the last tariff adjustment in 2019, the cedi exchange rate of all major trading currencies with Ghana have consistently depreciated. So we know that the dollar, for instance, that's at the end of 2021, went up to 1 Ghana cedis to from $1 to 6 Ghana cedis. So that is a point which is affecting the Ghana Water Company Limited, which is part of the proposals that they're making. There's also the concern about debt overhang. So it's not only ECG. Ghana Water Company also argues that, for instance, if they're raking 100 million Ghana cedis on the average at the end of every month, about 47.15% of that amount is going to service a debt of $7.93 million US dollars, which they are using to resurface that loan that they are saddled with. And then finally, the issue about land compensation as well. Some projects that the Ghana Water Company Limited is undertaking is obviously having a toll on them, and that's why they are asking for an upward adjustment of tariffs. Well, on the streets, some Ghanaians say they are not ready to shoulder any more expenses. Here's why.
If they're asking us to pay more, are they also willing to give us supply every day? I mean, that's my question. If they are asking us to pay more, then they should also be willing to supply us with water and constant electricity every day. Because now, Trotro is always increasing. E-levy too has come on top, and things are getting harder. I know it's globally, but then looking at internally, the government should have also done something to help Ghanaians with, and we are not getting anything out of it. So if they say they are increasing electricity, I shouldn't do so in my home.
I'm just thinking that we pay more and tariffs is going to cause an average Ghanaian to lose some kind of money, because an average Ghanaian earning a salary less than 2,000 Ghana cedis, 3,000 can't pay those. Even now, people are finding it very difficult to pay their light bills and water bills. So I believe the government, if the government can also do something about it to maintain or not to increase anything, so that, because we are also suffering. The e-levy just came and we are suffering because we pay e-levy day in and day out, on every transaction that we make, 100 cedis and above, and it's affecting an average Ghanaian. So if government brings this up, it's going to cost a lot. It's going to cost.
Say the proposal be about say increase utility tariffs in Manama. Even our demands is very high. Now already on many more in that. And he say bibi fufro or ombeyana omdia increase yen you can say utilities ana bia ebebo omajumana abani yen fa ho ba say osan the bed ni be kan yen etimamufo no ho eyo how this year transport fares akọ high yen salary dey tia na eti ye brepa inti ye pa mocho omunye hu bi man.
So he is basically saying that things are hard for the ordinary Ghanaian, and therefore, if there is any other alternative for the companies to raise revenue, they should, than burdening the ordinary Ghanaian with increment in tariffs.
Well, you're still watching the polls here on the JoyNews channel. When we return, we'll engage the National Road Safety Authority as there are growing concerns drivers are beginning to take cocaine to stay awake. Welcome back to the polls. Now, the Ghana National Association of Teachers, NAT, is actually questioning government's commitment to providing quality education to the people of Ghana. The association says the non-payment of capitation grants, the non-release of textbooks, and the seeming preference of the senior high schools over the basic schools, the very foundation upon which the senior high schools are built, leaves much to be desired.
Our duty as union leaders to remind the duty bearers, the policy formulators, that when we talk about education in general, it consists of several levels. We have the basic level, we have the secondary level, we have the tertiary level, and so on and so forth. But if you look at presently the basic school level, the challenges confronting the teachers, the pupils, the students, the parents, and the community at large, my brother, it is becoming alarming. You see, the practice at the basic school has been that as soon as school vacates, then management of the Ghana Education Service will start preparing to make sure that they get basic logistics for the subsequent term's work. You see, since school resumed till date, teachers have not been able to get what we call teachers' lesson notebooks. You see, today is 10th May. Teachers have resumed work. And if you look at the condition and code of conduct for teachers, it says that the teacher shall prepare relevant lesson notes in advance. And it is the duty of the head to make sure that this is done. And the question is, who is supposed to provide this lesson note? Sometimes we hear directors asking teachers to use their money to buy lesson notebooks. It is never done. This one we want to put on record that if you are a director or you are a head teacher and you are asking teachers to use their meager salary to buy teachers' lesson notebook, it is never done. It is nowhere in our collective agreement that the teachers use their salary to purchase a teachers' lesson notebook. You see, now, apart from the teachers' lesson notebooks, look, we started implementing the new curriculum since 2019, and I have been lamenting on this issue for countless time now. But you remember that 2019 when the policy started, a child who was in class 1 this year will be in class 3. A child who was in class 6 this year, the child will be in JHS 3. So it means this year, this child who was in class 6 when the policy started couldn't lay hand on a single official textbook, and today this child is in JHS 3. God willing, by the close of this academic year, that child will be exiting the basic school. So what are we doing to ourselves? Capitation is not forthcoming. You see, the basic materials, the basic logistics that the teachers will need to give the children very effective lesson delivery. We don't need to be begging. Anytime, it is sometimes very sad that anytime schools resume, we have to call on government, we have to call on the GES management that we need this, we need that. Please, the law is clear that it is the duty of the employer to provide some of these basic logistics that will help the teachers work very well. It is very sad. So I think the power that be need to take a second look at the financing of the basic school education. Other than that, very soon, gradually, we will not see things very well, my brother, in the country.
Well, the president of the association, Dr. Isaac, also wants government to demonstrate to the association that it has basic education at heart by committing to the financing the schools and also supporting the maintenance and building of infrastructure to support basic education. He has been touring some of the basic schools as schools reopen today.
Lay a very solid foundation. There is no way you can get a very strong complete structure. So if the attention of the policy formulators will be tilted towards the secondary school education, even though presently the secondary school itself, there are a lot of challenges there that our members and then the heads of the various secondary schools are facing. You see, recently Charles came out lamenting that even food to be given to the children were issued when the Minister of Education quickly mobilized something and sent it to the head teachers. So you see, the attention should not be at the SHS alone. We should also look at the basis, which is the foundation. Because if your foundation is not strong, there is no way you can build any meaningful structure. So I think that going forward, you see, when we meet the authority, we let them know and understand that the basic school is key. It's our foundation. You see, the education ladder, it starts from the basic school. So we cannot do without the basic school and say that, oh, I have a nice infrastructure, I have a nice plan for the secondary school, and so we cannot make it. We cannot make it. You saw the where we went the other side. You see, so we are pleading and appealing to those in authority that we are begging them. They should take a second look at the basic education.
Well, this is what I need to tell you. If you're making a long journey this afternoon, chances are the driver taking you there is high on cocaine. That's the crude admission by the Ghana Private Road Transport Union, GPRTU Secretary of the union, actually, Godfred Abubari, says some drivers are taking alcohol and pills just to stay awake whilst driving. So let's explore the health implications of this. To what extent is a driver's attention impaired by their consumption of cocaine or any other hard drug? Joining us now via Zoom is Dr. Hannah-Lisa Tete, a medical practitioner and also host of Health and Vitality here at JoyNews. Hannah-Lisa, it's good to see you at this moment. So this is a stark revelation that we're getting from GPRTU. Are you also aware of this trend?
Oh, yes. To say I'm not aware would be a complete lie. We know that people take hard drugs to stay alert. It's not even just drivers, but it's most people. They stay alert by taking hard drugs. They believe that it makes them alert. People even take it when they have to study for an exam. So it's something that is used.
And how efficient or otherwise is it?
Okay, so the thing is, most of these drugs have a span within which they work. So the general one, according to studies, is 5 to 90 minutes, 5 minutes to 90 minutes, within which period you can be alert, you are excited, you feel like, okay, you can do everything. You feel like Superman or Spider-Man or whatever cartoon character is a hero to you. You feel like you can do anything and everything. But then the danger is that right after this period, you start feeling signs of depression. So then everything tips down. You become agitated, you become very paranoid, you lose your attention, and all the other negative things that come with it. So in as much as you feel you are alert, within a period, you realize that you can't make the right decisions, you can't focus, you are inattentive, and that's when you begin to make decisions that go against you or the other people that are involved.
And I guess that's where the danger is, particularly for a driver, because if it happens midway your journey, then you're putting the life of many people at risk, right?
Yes. Even if you take it and you feel that you're alert, remember that your attention may be impaired, so you're not able to focus very well. The other side effect is also agitation. So the least thing gets you upset. And we know that during long journeys, somebody can stop you and say, I want to go and pee, or doctor, driver, why are you doing this? And sometimes that's why they're even speeding, because they feel like they can do anything and everything. So they're even speeding and they have no idea the extent to which they are speeding. So yes, that's when the danger comes in.
But I guess in all of this, the justification we get from most of these drivers is the fact that they want to stay awake. So there's some natural remedial measures to the concerns they have.
You want to stay awake, then have a good rest. That's all. The reason they take these drugs is because they want to overwork the body. They want to cheat the body. If you have a good night's rest, or if you're supposed to work at night and you sleep very well during the day, you don't really need to take anything to stay alert during the night. If you're eating well, you're living a healthy life, you don't really need all of these things. But that's because most of them want to go for a morning journey, come back, go for an evening journey as well. And so you'll be feeling sleepy. So they feel that they should take these drugs to make them alert. And that's the issue. They want to cheat nature or overwork the body, or they want to do more than they are able or capable of doing. And that's what brings the problems.
But generally speaking, and there's some categories of persons who need enhancers just to stay alert at whatever it is that they're doing.
Need enhancers to stay alert. Just like I said, you need to rest. When you rest, you're eating well, you are well hydrated, your immune system is naturally boosted. If you're taking fruits and vegetables, that's all you really need. You don't need enhancers. If you need that, then it won't be for performing another function. If it's on medical grounds, we won't ask you to go and take these enhancers to be able to perform your functions.
Sometimes that has it got to do with diet? Just sometimes.
Yes, it's got to do with diet as well. Yeah, there are times that the food you eat makes you drowsy or sleepy. So let's say you have a journey and you're going to eat fufu, like heavy fufu or 3 bowls of kenke or banku. Obviously, you feel tired and drowsy, and then you won't be able to stay alert or awake. So that's also a factor as well. So your diet, like I mentioned, your diet, how hydrated you're staying, and then how much you're resting. The rest is very important. It's able to keep you alert for your normal day-to-day functions.
I hope the drivers are not mad at you for talking about Banku, but anyway.
Oh, they won't be. You won't be mad, because when they come to a consultation, this is the same thing I would say. So.
Right. Anyway, we have to leave it here. Thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Hannalisa Tete. Well, let's talk about this now. Chairman of the National Media Commission, Yao Bodu-Ayeboafo, says that that successful governments have exhibited unwillingness to allow the commission to function independently as enshrined in the 1992 Constitution. He stated that the commission is one of the most under-resourced constitutional body in Ghana, hereby hindering the Secretariat's determination to deliver on its mandate. Mr. Bodu-Ayeboafo was speaking at the opening ceremony of an orientation seminar for members of the NMC at Ho. There's more in the following report.
The National Media Commission is critical for good governance, independent media, and freedom of expression. Its true mandate, however, is in the area of independent, free, and responsible media. However, while the nation seems not to have come to terms with these onerous responsibilities by ignoring the fundamental needs of the Commission, majority of the people assume that the Commission is responsible for free and open expression of all manner of views under a libertarian setting. Certain statements from some government sources tend to undermine public confidence in the Commission. The fact that the Commission had to go to court and for 4 years before the court held that it was the Commission, not the government, which had the power and authority to appoint chief executive officers for the state-owned media. The fact that up to date, the NMC does not play any functional role in the allocation of frequency for the electronic media, or that we do not have clarity of the authority to control the governance architecture to manage the DTT platform, all point to the lack of commitment on the part of government to make the Commission functionally independent. In 1999, the Commission, with support from the National Institutional Renewal Program, developed a 10-year strategic plan, but to date, the plan has not been implemented, and worse, the Commission has suffered diminution of staff to the extent that today there is no research officer. All the work has been left to the Executive Secretary, the Deputy Executive Secretary, and to some extent, Paula Sansbury. It is thus a pleasure to know that a new scheme of service has been approved and permission is being sought to recruit. I can only pray and plead with the Secretariat to do all that must be done to have the recruitment carried out effectively and efficiently. Among the immediate and imperative needs of the Commission are suitable head office accommodation, regional offices, adequate budgetary allocation, and management of frequency allocation. Thus, the arrangements for the construction of the Freedom House under the Ministry of Information through the collaboration of the National Media Commission, the Right to Information Commission, and the Ghana Journal Association is very welcoming. And our hope is that it becomes a reality within the year. That will definitely complement the staff to be recruited. Yes.
And you're still watching The Pulse. Now, the West Africa Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, WACBIP, has begun a training program for health personnel, particularly laboratory scientists. According to the Deputy Director in charge of research at the center, the initiative by his outfit is to provide skill and infrastructural training to personnel. Marcy Numon has the rest of the story. In line with the Ghana Health Services integrated disease surveillance and response system in Ghana to strengthen disease surveillance in the country, the West Africa Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, WACBIP, has organized a capacity-building workshop on genomic sequencing for biomedical and medical laboratory scientists within the Ghana Health Service. Dr. Peter Kojokwashi is a research fellow and the Deputy Director in charge of research at the center. He tells JoyNews that training is basically aimed at building sequencing capacity.
Today's training is about building sequencing capacity in some facilities of the Ghana Health Service. It's to help us build sequencing capacity so that we can track, as we are tracking the virus in the country. You know, WACBIP is one of the institutions that has been at the forefront of doing research on COVID. We also recognize and bring and build that capacity in the Ghana Health Service, because when you talk public health, you are talking about Ghana Health Service in Ghana. That's their responsibility. So it's a partnership between us, our funders, and the Ghana Health Service, and this is one of the first of many such trainings that we are going to organize for their facilities.
He explained that the participants will also be given the chance to try their hands on modern laboratory equipment and how to operate them.
This training is basically giving the biomedical scientists at 4 different Ghana Health Service facilities the ability to do sequencing of the virus. That is from sample preparation all the way to sample sequence deposition in the databases. And this will also be accompanied by some provision of instrumentation. So it's not just that they are going to learn the skills and not have the ability to implement it, but we will provide some of the sequencing machines there for them to do it.
Some participants who spoke to JoyNews said the training will equip them, especially in sampling and identifying variants.
With this program, I think it will be very useful for us to, at the local level, know which variants of COVID we are dealing with. And since the principle is pretty much the same with other pathogens, it will help us to be better prepared in case any other infectious disease surfaces.
It's actually to build our capacity at the end of the day, to be able to quickly look at the various pathogens or the emerging or the re-emerging pathogens that come up with the various disease conditions, just so that we'll be able to give our support. We augment whatever the Noguchis and then the KCCRs and then the WACBIPs are doing.
Coming from the marine science background, we all know there are lots of diseases or outbreaks that come from the oceans, a lot of pathogens here and there from the ocean, and I'm trying to understand the processes or in monitoring all of these organisms. Sequencing is part of it, so I'm here to build my capacity, my skills in sequencing.
The training, which is also to strengthen the link between research, the government, and the health community, is funded by the Commonwealth Development Office of the United Kingdom through the British High Commission in Ghana. Marcy Newman's report for JoyNews. And you're still with us here on The Pulse. We'll return shortly after this break. Please stay. And you're Welcome back. Students of Ofori Senior High School say they are surprised Presec Abetifi beat them to qualify for the 2022 National Science and Maths Quiz competition. Many NSMQ pundits predicted a win for pass, but that victory rather went to the underdogs of the contest. At the end, Abetifi pressed PSHS at 53 points, Ofori SHS at 44, Apekusu SHS with 15 points, and Team Soidru coming through with 10 points, and Achasi SHS with only 8 points. Maxwell Agbagba has the rest of the story.
We are we are put your good forever. We are the fruit of your tree. We are doctors, pilots, soldiers, we are teachers, lawyers, farmers.
Abetifi Presby Senior High School has qualified for the national competition. In the contest against Ofori Senior High School and 3 others, they were more or less the underdogs. That they made a huge statement and have now qualified for the national championship later this year. It's all excitement, and you can see the gentlemen pouring powder over themselves, signifying victory and their excitement. Let's speak to some of them. I have the school prefect here with me. What's your name?
Nino Frank is my name. We are really excited. Like, I don't know how to say our excitement is. Like, we are really excited. And like, on behalf of my team and on behalf of the school, we say a very big thank you to our Most High, our Lord and Gracious, who has been able to bring us this far. We glorify Him, we honor Him. And then we also thank all of our supporters and upset. We thank you all. Like, and actually, I'm telling you that we are happy, we are excited.
What does it mean to your school, beating Ofori in high school?
Okay, beating Ofori, upset beating Ofori is like, let's say, the biggest thing we've dreamt of. Like, actually, we didn't come here for a contest. We are telling you that we only came here for trials. This is a trial.
Mr. Franco Tieku, about Twitter Sec. Very, very excited. In fact, we are always saying that opportunities when preparation meet chances. And we can thank management, Almighty God, especially our honorable headmaster, for all the support he gave us. And our senior tutor, the chemistry master. You saw how the chemistry did the trick. Yes, the chemistry did the trick. And this is the man in charge. Teamwork has paid off.
We thank God for this particular victory. We've been working so hard. From last year, we came with these same students and then it didn't go our way. We thank God that this year it went our way and we are so happy. We can't even express how much we feel right now. It's so much exciting.
Okay, so you can see on my right hand side, we have students from Ofori Senior High School. Well, they're not in a good mood. Okay, all of them moving away.
We are always better than them, so
considering our preparations and all stuff, like we've prepared so hard for these contests, but you know, God's time is the best, and then everything happens for a reason. So we are hoping to come in next year with more vim. Timo Pass, we are coming next year.
So, as I let them know, we are still in penny 4. Yeah, still in penny 4.
You're not in Kola?
Nah, still in penny 4. In penny 4. The film is still there.
In penny 4 in Kola?
That be in Kola more, yeah, still in penny 4.
So that's it. Yeah, disappointment. They are confident and optimistic that next year they will come back, you know, to make it to the national competition. Reporting for JoyNews, Maxwell Agbagba.
Well, so let's take you to the northern region, there at the Kalpohing Senior High School, where they have proven to be the official nemesis of St. Charles Minor Seminary after successfully denying them a spot in the National Science and Maths Quiz for the 2nd year in a row. With the seminarians down the Kaliskans, they say they are in to draw more blood. We can take a listen to this.
Well, this is the 2nd year in a row that they are making it into the national championship of the National Science and Maths Quiz. There's an icing on that cake, and that is that they've done that at the expense of St. Charles Minor Seminary.
Today, if you plant a stone on my heart, it will germinate. we have always been paired with St. Charles Minor Seminary. But now, they have bowed down to us. They are not our co-equal, and they can never be our co-equal. Today, men are separated from the boys.
Let's make it very clear. That Kelpo Senior High School is now a school to reckon with. It is a school in the north that you must watch out for. Yes. We are not going to leave any stone unturned. And the southern guys should watch out. We are coming very slowly. And let me tell you, they should not watch the score. Because, in every game there are tactics. And so we monitored very well, and because we wanted to be very sure of our success.
Actually, what I want to say is we thank God for so far how He has brought us. We look to see more, but actually, we are coming for them. We come for them. We are prepared.
You say what? Come close.
We don't talk much. We just show us.
What action are you coming to show? Get closer.
To scatter, dismantle, and rearrange them and scatter them.
The game has just started. They haven't seen anything yet. We're just playing with those. Play. Yeah. You're gonna see something else. The next coming competitions and everything to come. You're gonna see everything.
We do like. The more them they come, we cast them, bind them. We go cut.
That's for this one there. We have just play with them. Just play. And these are the guys from Cowboy SHS. They are on their way to the national championship. And for their competitors from St. Charles Minor Seminary. And this must be heartbreaking for you and your team.
Yes, indeed. It is really heartbreaking. I think this is just a wake-up call for us to go back to our drawing board to see what was the challenges. At least next year, inshallah, St. Charles will top Northern Region.
No, we didn't expect that. We were expecting much higher expectation more than this. We know that we were winners. We came here as winners. And as we are leaving, we know we haven't won, but in our hearts, we know we are winners next time we are coming. We'll win next time as we are coming.
But of course, there's no win in your heart too. You win on stage.
We won on stage again.
And now the Ghana Chamber of Telecommunications says it suspects some industry professionals are involved in the theft of some active telecom equipment from some cell sites across the country. Chief Executive Officer for the Chamber, Dr. Kenneth Asigwe, believes that the syndicate may be exporting the equipment to neighboring countries. A total of some 115 incidents were reported between August 2020 and May this year, representing a significant setback for the telecommunications industry. Nana Yao Jima attended a press conference and now comes through with a report.
The Ashanti region recorded 43.5% of the 115 cases recorded, while the Central region followed with 16.5%. In less than 3 days, 2 separate incidents were recorded in Gushegu and Tamale. CEO of the Telecom's chamber, Dr. Kenneth Asigwe, explains the precision with which the equipment are decommissioned points to industry players colluding in the theft.
And definitely from the way these people are working, if you look at these equipment, for them to be able to deal with them is the likes of myself. They are technicians, they are engineers, they are people who are knowledgeable. Because what they do, they don't just go vandalizing. They actually decommission the sites. So, and some of them, they do them when the site is actually live. And they need to do it. So if you take a card like this, you need to handle it such that you don't blow this, do not short, and it will blow everything. So these are people who actually know what it is that they're doing, and they definitely are part of the industry. But if you look at, you will find out that in my presentation, there are some times where the staff of some of the telcos are being arrested. So far as we are concerned, there are no tin gods in here. If Kenneth Asigwe is one of the thieves, he has to be arrested, he has to be brought to book. So we are very open-minded in the way we're dealing with this, and thankfully working with the police, CID, national security and all of that, our nets are wide open.
The equipment, which are only useful in the telecommunication cell sites, are in short supply on the international market due to emergence of 5G technology. Since all the telecom companies share the sites, it is believed none of the companies will purchase the stolen items, hence the possibility of export. Stephen Zoroata Ejay is Director, Network Service Operations at Airtel Tigo.
We believe strongly that, as has been mentioned over and over, that these items find themselves outside the borders of Ghana. That is why it is important to collaborate among ourselves to ensure that whoever is stealing these items are brought to book. We are not just looking for the guys on the field that go to steal, but we are looking for the big shots behind the whole, the whole crime.
Already, theft of copper cables, fuel batteries, among others, continue to rise, with 1,429 incidents recorded from January 2017 to March 2022. Greater Accra leads with 32.3% of cases, followed by the Ashanti region with 26.2% cases. The National Intelligence Bureau and security agencies are taking steps to arrest criminals suspected to be involved in the practice.
We cannot continue to allow these nation wreckers to continue doing what they are doing. The impact on us is very severe. We're collaborating with all these security agencies. We're collaborating with the intelligence agencies. And what we are saying is that now for anybody, any citizen, any whistleblower who would bring out information and intelligence that would lead to the arrest of any of these nation wreckers, we are promising you a very, very handsome reward. Another thing, we'll go a step further. If based on the whistle you blow, we are able to successfully prosecute and get jail sentences, we would add up to that.
For Joy News, Nana Ojima reporting.
And back here in the studios, that's all we have for you in this package of The Pulse. My name is Blessed Sogah. Don't forget to log on to myjoyonline.com. We have updates on our stories.